Hi, good evening, Alex.
Good evening.
Good evening, and welcome to the CASAA update for the week of 6/13/2016. How are you this week, Alex?
Good, but it's just Monday.
That's very true. So, what is new and exciting this week?
Well, not so much. Well, okay, yeah, not so much this week, but at the end of last week, we
Right.
picked up three more co-sponsors to HR 2058,
Awesome.
which is great news. And I'm going to read their names off
Okay.
because that's something I can do. Um, there's not a whole lot to this week's update,
Okay.
honestly.
Okay.
Um, but so. Uh, if you live in the 48th Congressional District in California, take a moment to thank Dana Rohrbacher. If you live in the 9th District in Georgia, take a moment to thank Doug Collins. And if you live in Pennsylvania's 5th District, 5th, Condest- 5th Congressional District,
Right.
Glenn Thompson deserves a thank you letter from you. All of these, of course, being U.S. representatives. And we have a simple, easy to use engagement up for that on our site. Um,
Awesome.
yeah, that's pretty good. And I've heard there've been posts around the social medias. People are setting up meetings with their Congress members, and I suspect we will see more co-sponsors um,
Excellent.
coming this week. So yeah, that's always good news.
Yeah.
And just to kind of reiterate, I feel like we've kind of beat this thing to death, but you never know who's listening. So
Sure.
it's always good to point out that um, you know signing on as a co-sponsor for this. First of all, right now it's measurable.
Hmm.
We can see 63 names as co-sponsors,
Sure.
and that's always a good thing. Um, that means that it's a great way to show that we're getting support for changing the predicate date.
Hmm.
Um, and this is something that, uh, you know, at the moment, we can't really do this for the Cole Bishop Amendment,
Sure.
which is equally important and will, when the time comes, we'll be able to see that vote. But for right now, this is very helpful in at least gaining some support and sort of demonstrating that support to other congressmen.
Right.
It is still very important that people support HR 2058.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, and yeah, that's that. So it's always I always like starting the update with good news,
Yeah.
because there is unfortunately some bad news out of West Virginia today. Um, this has been an ongoing issue. Um, West Virginia has been looking at a tax on vapor products. Actually, I need to double check my dates on this. I want to say it was February that we put out our call to action on this.
Right.
Um, let's see. And it's been kind of, um, it, oh wow, I don't have any West Virginia posts in here. That's
Huh.
very strange. We did have a West Virginia call to action, and I want to say it was back in February.
Right.
There was a 7.5% tax on vapor products, or maybe it was 7.5 cents per milliliter.
Right.
Um, Whatever it was, the proposal has changed like
Hmm.
3 or 4 times until we got what we got today.
Right.
Um, and there were other attempts at getting this passed that never really gained a whole lot of attention publicly,
Hmm.
um, and they were crushed pretty quickly. Unfortunately, the state of West Virginia has a huge gap in their budget, and they are looking for actually one of the things that a delegate said in today's hearing was the governor made it clear that he was not going to pass a budget without a budget that did not contain some sort of new revenue streams. Um, and I guess that, what that, I mean, I'm not the tax policy guy, but
Right.
I guess, an interpretation of that could be that, the state has just cut spending from everything that they could afford.
Hmm.
And so, really the only thing left is to tax new things or come up with new revenue. So it's situations like that that are very difficult. We saw this with Kansas last year. I mean,
Yeah.
these, first of all, these taxes on vapor products, they solve the problem on paper.
Sure.
But as we're going through, next year, tax as these taxes become implemented, we're going to see that what was written down is not necessarily what's happening.
For sure.
And so it's, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where this came in with West Virginia. It is I don't even have it in front of me. I believe it's back to 7.5 cents per milliliter, and there's also like a 12% wholesale tax. I'm gonna have to read up on this,
Okay.
but let me see here. Um, I really should have had this open before I came on the air. I apologize. And suffice it to say, it's actually a lot worse than what was originally proposed.
Oh, yeah.
And something that Paul Blair pointed out in a blog post on Americans for Tax Reform.
Yeah.
One of the provisions in here is that
You know,
he didn't put it in there. Hold on, I have this somewhere.
okay. You know what's ridiculous is these taxes never turn out like they plan, and it's almost a worldwide phenomena. When you see taxes on, um, well, I guess this is a sin tax, just like a soda tax would be called the sin tax, but I don't. It defeats the purpose because it's not really. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's somebody else has used much better, much more refined language than I'm about to, but
Okay.
um, it's essentially that you're basing a revenue stream on a tax that's intended to discourage people from using that product.
Yeah, exactly. It definitely defeats the purpose. If the purpose is to allow people to stop smoking real cigarettes and start using electronic ones, then why would you tax it? If unless you didn't really care about anything but your money. So,
Yeah. Okay.
unfortunately. Mhm.
So I have the bill in front of me, and so starting on July 1st, an excise tax is levied and imposed on sales of e-cigarette liquid at a rate of 7.5 cents per milliliter. Um, and yeah, this goes into effect in less than 30 days, which is kind of shocking.
That is.
Um, and there's some other language in here. So this part's particularly concerning. No wholesaler or other person may purchase e-cigarette liquids from any seller not approved by the tax commissioner. E-cigarette liquid mixing kits and e-cigarette liquid mixing kit components shall be taxed in accordance with the amount of e-cigarette liquid in milliliters that can be produced by or from the kit or components thereof, as determined by the tax commissioner. I want to say this again. In less than 30 days,
Hmm.
this starts. That's nuts. I don't know what the we have to look through the bill here and see if they laid out a very efficient process for the tax commissioner to approve of all of these companies to sell into the state of West Virginia. Um, but yeah, this is a pretty haphazard money grab if we've seen one.
Yeah.
Um, so uh, yeah, and just a little bit of background. I was talking to some other people about this, and this is like round 4 or 5 of this tax bill. Despite it not showing up on our blog, I think I know why actually, because the tag I had tagged this West Virginia, but for some reason it doesn't show up on our blog when you search for that tag.
Right.
But it is in there. So when we originally put this out, um, yeah, that was what 4 or 5 months ago,
Right.
and it has just come back and been, you know, it's been quashed a couple of times. It's changed
Right.
a couple of times. Um, it's hard to say that this was steamrolled through,
Mm-hmm.
but that's essentially what they did. I mean, this is just not this. There's very little consideration being given to businesses here,
Mm-hmm.
um, and um, to be fair, there was sort of there was a track record of this thing getting defeated
Right.
uh, over and over again. And the last thing that we put out, it wasn't a massive call to action. It was over the weekend, and because actually West Virginia went back into session on the 12th.
Right.
It was regularly scheduled to go back into session on Sunday,
Right.
and that's when the House Finance Committee met and passed this bill through the committee. But we sent out a very quick call to action for people living in the districts to call their representative that was on the committee
Right.
and urge them to oppose this e-cigarette tax.
Right.
So at the end here happened very quickly, and clearly, after you make these arguments over and over and over again,
Mm-hmm.
this is not new information for the West Virginia legislature, that this is actually going to cost the state money. You're not going to raise what you expect to raise. You're going to be shutting down businesses. You're going to
Mm-hmm.
be, pressuring people to stick with cigarettes or go back to smoking.
Mm-hmm.
They've heard all of this before. They've heard it 4 or 5 times before.
Right.
This is a blatant disregard for all of the good quality information that they had been presented with. So, yeah, disappointing day for West Virginia, and I hope that 2017 affords the legislature and advocates in West Virginia the opportunity to repeal this tax.
Yeah. No, they don't really want to pay attention to the fact that they're not really going to make much money from this. It's just not a money-making thing at
No.
all.
And, Pennsylvania is looking at a 40% wholesale tax. That may not be, I don't know, that it may not be I don't think it is as bad as West Virginia, but, you know, Pennsylvania's got a lot of border counties and a lot of border cities. So,
Yeah.
um, it's,
It
it's
it
not going
is
to Pennsylvania.
it is funny to me that people think that everybody's just going to shop within their own borders. I mean, hasn't New York proven anything to these people?
New where?
New York.
No, we don't. We don't know anything beyond our own geopolitical boundaries. Why would we consider what other states have gone through?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy. Wow. So, yay on HR 2058 though. That's good. That's moving along.
Yep, definitely a step in the right direction. I'm absolutely positive that people would probably be interested in some more FDA news, but I don't have anything other to add than the regulations are still horrible.
Hmm.
And on July 26th, everybody needs to make sure that um, their vendors are selling e-liquid bottles that are compliant with the um, Child Nicotine Poisoning Prevention Act of 2015.
Yeah.
That means child-resistant caps that are consistent with the compliant with the U.S. Code of Federal Regulations.
Hmm.
Um, what else? I feel like there's something else more exciting that I could share, but I
Yeah.
maybe
I go ahead.
I was just gonna say maybe we'll just enjoy the off week because I'm sure it's gonna get weird.
You think now isn't weird?
Uh,
Oh, you're right. It could get stranger.
yeah.
It can always get stranger. So I guess that's it for this week then, Alex.
Yep. For now.
Okay. Well, thank you for everything you do for us, Alex, and have a nice night. We'll
Likewise. Thanks.
see you next week. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.